Just for the record, the red tie has nothing to do with the last week's results and all that stuff. So don't jump to conclusions. Okay, good to be with you. And today's lesson is lesson number 41, and the scriptures are 3rd Nephi 22 through 26. So if you'll kind of follow along with the lesson, and the church, is kind of making a bit of a shift. Has anybody noticed this? Have you kind of noticed the direction that the church is sort of leaning towards as it pertains to teaching? Anybody out there that is involved in teaching that's seen some of this? Who knows what's kind of moving forward with the church?
You have to listen to the Spirit and be guided by the Spirit. With the teaching with the youth, it's just an outline of what you teach. And then just with the missionaries, it used to be scripted. They said the exact words, but now it's just preach my gospel.
Okay. Are there anyone in here who served a mission in the 70s? Anybody served a mission in the 70s or before that? Who knows what the missionary discussions were like?
I didn't serve a cross-line mission, but I mean, there was a book, and you had to memorize the steps and the lessons. And if you met somebody one time, you gave them this lesson. The second time, you gave them this lesson.
Yeah. Raj, you served a mission about what year? 85? Young guys. So when I went on my mission, the church was just starting to. They were just starting to get away from, some of the big, really long discussions that they're required to learn. Although I was still required to learn word for word and pass off every word of the discussions. Were you that way, Roger? They made you shift by then. So by the time Roger went out, from the time I went out, we still had to pass off every little thing. A couple of years later, when Roger goes out, now it's more of what you said, where they have a concept, and we should learn the gospel of that concept and then teach by the Spirit. And in the church right now, that is the new initiative of the church, is to less and less have outlined lessons, and instead we talk about the principles in and around the scriptures. And so some of you may know that there's a new initiative, and they actually are calling it a new initiative in the church of what's it called?
Teaching in the Savior's way. Right?
That too. Teaching in the Savior's way is one of them. Self-reliance, the self-reliance initiative. And I was just called to be one of the facilitators of that for Mistake Calling. And in that, it's just a whole different thing. It's when they say that I'm a facilitator, that's exactly what I am. It's not. They don't want teachers. Even though I know a lot about business, they don't want me to go there to teach about business, which I thought was really unusual. Because they want people to facilitate the teaching from everybody. And who has taught in Sunday school since they came out with the new program that they have? What's it called? Come Follow Me. Has anybody been a Sunday school teacher? Okay. Were you there when they rolled that out?
It was after they rolled it out, but I was part of that.
Okay. I was a Sunday school teacher here, teaching the youth when they rolled that out, and it was like, well, how do we do this? And anyway, so more and more, the direction of the church is to try to get everybody involved in the lesson. So it's kind of coming. So be prepared. But today we're going to be talking about lesson 41. And so if you'll turn to who has 3rd Nephi 22:2? Can someone read that? 3rd Nephi 22:2. Yes. Good to have you back. We missed you.
Enlarge the place of thy tent, and let them stretch forth the curtains of thy habitations. Lengthen thy cords, and lengthen thy state.
Okay. What does it mean to enlarge the place of thy tent? What do you think that means? Yeah. Okay. Be more inclusive. Okay. Anybody else? What do you think that the Lord is saying to enlarge the place of thy tent? Be more inclusive. Bring in more people.
Enlarge your sphere of influence.
Okay. Okay. What about lengthening thy cords? Are there any campers in here? Campers? No campers?
Sorta.
Matt, you kind of a camper? I'm an Eagle Scout, but I hate camping. I managed to get through it. But what do you think when we cast a tent? Right? Many times we go camping, we put out a tent, we stake it down with cords, right? What do you think it means in the terms of lengthen thy cords?
It's gas, but doesn't that make it a little bit more stable?
Okay.
If you are pulling out and you got one going this way, and
Okay.
could be more stability.
Maybe more of them, huh? How about as we enlarge our tent, lengthen thy cords? What do you think that he means by that? Enlarge thy tent and lengthen thy cords.
Make it larger.
Expand further. Further reaching, right? More far reaching. What about and strengthen thy stakes?
Bear down for the storm that's coming.
What do you mean, Matt?
I mean that it's no, you're opening it up to hold more people, to have more spirit, and yet make it strong enough to withstand the storm of the adversary.
Yeah. I remember reading the story about some folks the young guy that went out camping and was telling a story about how when they went out they had a nice umbrella type of a canopy type of a tent, and they quickly put it up and they staked it down and they went and played. And the winds came and the rains came and they hadn't properly staked it down, and what do you think the result was?
It was good.
A cold, wet night, right? And then he went on and talked about how at a later point they had gone camping where they had what they called a circus type tent. You know what I mean? Big circus type tent. And the leaders had taken time and really staked it and given multiple different cords and stakes. And the wind came. And it was a big wind, and that tent stood strong, and all of their equipment was kept dry, and they were kept dry. They had a place to go to that was safe when the winds came. There's a poem written that says, this is from an Edwin Markham. He drew a circle and shut me out. Heretic, rebel, a thing to flout. But love and I had the wit to win. We drew a circle and took him in. What does this mean to anybody? What comes to your mind? Thoughts? He drew a circle to shut me out. But love and I had the wit to win, and we drew a circle and took him in. What is it saying? To what? Okay. Be inclusive of who? Okay.
I think it means you're taking the extra step, because if you're not included, you could just say, well, I'm not included, but then to take the next step would be to initiate yourself a friendship to include others.
Okay. What about for the people that treat us poorly? How do we treat them? What do we do with those people?
Love them anyway.
Pardon?
Love them anyway.
Love them anyway. The neighbor that isn't so kind to you, or does things that upsets you, or said things to you, how do we treat them? What do we do? With this quote, this poem, what is it saying that we should do with those people? Bring them back in, right? Invite them anyway, and include them. Cast a bigger tent, right? Include more people in, and love them anyway. Even though sometimes it's hard, we still need to love them anyway. Okay, who has the President Benson quote? Matt.
President Ezra Taft Benson said, "The prophets likened Latter-day Zion to a great tent encompassing the earth. The tent was supported by cords fastened to stakes. Those stakes, of course, are the various geographical organizations spread out over the earth. Presently, Israel is being gathered to the various stakes of Zion. Stakes are a defense for the saints from both enemies, seen and unseen. The defense is direction provided through priesthood channels that strengthens testimony and promotes family solidarity and individual righteousness."
Okay. Last week, Roger, in his lesson, he talked about how the gospel is expanding. It's going to everywhere all over the world, and there's still places, like I talk a lot about going, my trips to China. Who has anybody been to China? A couple people? A lot of people, right?
Yeah.
And it's just mind-boggling to think about how many people live in China that have never even heard about this church and this gospel. They know nothing about the restoration of the gospel. They know nothing about Jesus Christ for the large portion of those people. It's staggering the amount of numbers that are still out there that don't know anything about the gospel as we know it. So President Benson, in his remarks here, what is he talking about? The stakes are a defense for the saints from enemies both seen and unseen. What does that mean? How can that happen? How can the stakes be a defense? Yeah.
I'm sorry, I have to, because everyone's so quiet.
Yeah. No, that's okay.
But I just feel like when there's strength in numbers, even though, we can be strong on our own, when we're united, we're stronger. And so when we strengthen our stakes, we're strengthening the people around us. And so that's the way I look at it.
So, yeah, great.
There's also many instances in the scriptures where the Lord has actually physically protected his people that are obedient to him.
Okay. And we're going to hopefully touch a little bit more on that later on in the lesson. So how do we individually as families ensure that our stakes are a refuge and a defense against evil? How do we do that? How do we make the Kaysville East Stake a refuge and a